In the bustling township of Sioux, life was anything but glamorous for Lulu, a young and ambitious woman. The reality of her daily struggles was a constant reminder of what she didn't have. From the moment she became aware of the world around her, she understood that she and her family were not just poor, they were trapped in a cycle of poverty that seemed unbreakable. Her mother, a hardworking woman, had been employed as a cleaner at an upscale Santon hotel for over 20 years, yet despite her dedication and years of labor, she had nothing to show for it besides aching knees and a salary that barely covered their rent. Their home was a cramped one-room apartment where the kitchen, bedroom, and living area blended into one space. The walls bore the marks of neglect, cracks running along them like veins, and the ceiling fan only worked when it felt like it. Every morning, Lulu woke up to the smell of burning wood from the street vendors cooking their morning meals outside. This was the life she had always known, but it wasn't the life she wanted. Unlike many around her who had accepted their fate, Lulu despised poverty. She resented waking up in discomfort, resented seeing her mother come home exhausted every evening, and resented the never-ending struggle that defined their existence. She craved more luxury, comfort, and a life beyond the narrow streets of Sioux. Every night she would lie in bed scrolling through Instagram, watching girls her age flaunt designer clothes, expensive wigs, and vacations in Dubai. Their lives seemed effortless, filled with soft living, wealth, and admiration. They uploaded videos of themselves strutting through luxury malls, sipping on champagne, and writing captions like "hard work pays off, another vacation, why not, and some of us are just built differently." Lulu knew that not all of them were being truthful. She suspected that many of them weren't as self-made as they claimed, but the details didn't matter to her. What mattered was that they had what she didn't: money, luxury, and freedom. She wanted that life, and she was willing to do whatever it took to get it. Her best friend Toby saw Lulu's obsession growing and tried to bring her back to reality. They had been best friends since childhood, inseparable through thick and thin, but lately Lulu had become harder to understand. "Lulu, you are dreaming too much. Life is not Instagram," Toby would tell her, shaking her head at her friend's endless scrolling. But Lulu would only sigh and shake her head right back. "And life is not suffering either, Toby. Look around as we live like rats. As for me, I refuse to be another struggling Sioux girl." Toby worried about Lulu's increasing desperation. She knew that the influencers Lulu idolized did more than just post pretty pictures to maintain their lifestyles. "Lulu, those girls do things to get their money. Do you really think an Instagram post is enough to pay for all that? Some of them have rich men sponsoring them, some even do dark things." Lulu rolled her eyes at Toby's warnings. "And if they can do it, why can't I?" "Because not everything is worth the price," Toby argued, but her words fell on deaf ears. Lulu had already made up her mind. She was tired of struggling. She refused to follow in her mother's footsteps and spend her life scrubbing floors for a salary that could barely keep her afloat. She wanted more, and she was going to get it. One afternoon, while scrolling through Instagram as usual, Lulu came across a post that sent her heart racing. It read, "I am looking for a personal assistant. She must be beautiful, stylish, and confident. DM me if you're interested. Zara X." Lulu's breath caught in her throat. Zara X, the Zara X. She was an influencer and socialite, with over 600,000 followers, a queen in Johannesburg's elite scene. She had the perfect body, the perfect hair, and the perfect life. She lived in a penthouse in Santon, drove a sleek Mercedes G-Wagon, and attended exclusive parties with South Africa's wealthiest men. Lulu had followed her for years, envying every bit of her existence. She had dreamed of being her, and now an opportunity to work for her had landed right in front of her. Without hesitation, Lulu typed a message. "Hi, my name is Lulu. I am confident, stylish, and hardworking. I would love to work with you." Her hands trembled slightly as she pressed send, and she silently prayed for a response. To her shock, it came within minutes. Her phone vibrated, and a message popped up on her screen. "Come to Santon Mall tomorrow at 3:00 p.m. Wear something nice." Lulu screamed with excitement and immediately ran to Toby's house. "I got a job." "Well, not a job yet, but I have a meeting with Zara X." Toby frowned, clearly unimpressed. "That influencer?" "Yes, she's looking for an assistant, and I applied. This could be my way into the industry." Lulu's eyes were shining with excitement. Toby, however, was not convinced. "Lulu, this is dangerous. You don't even know these people." "Please don't start," Lulu huffed. "Do you know how many girls would kill for this opportunity?" Toby sighed, knowing there was no stopping Lulu when she was determined. "Fine, but just be careful." The next day, Lulu borrowed a dress from Toby, applied cheap makeup to make it look expensive, and took a taxi to Santon. For the first time in her life, she entered a luxury restaurant where the air smelled of expensive perfume and quiet conversations about rich people's problems. She immediately felt out of place. Women strolled past her in designer outfits, their skin glowing with expensive skincare and their bodies sculpted to perfection. Then she spotted Zara seated at a private table sipping a cocktail. The influencer barely looked up as Lulu approached. "You're late," Zara said, adjusting her sunglasses. Lulu's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't late, she had arrived 10 minutes early, but still she apologized. "I'm sorry." Zara waved a hand dismissively. "Never mind, just sit." Lulu swallowed her nerves and sat across from her, taking in Zara's beauty up close. She was even more stunning than her pictures. Her lace wig was flawless, her nails long and sharp, and her gold earrings glistened under the restaurant lights. Lulu tried not to stare. Zara took another sip of her drink before finally addressing her properly. "You're pretty, that's important, but can you keep up?" Lulu straightened in her seat, forcing confidence into her voice. "I can handle it." Zara smirked. "We'll see." And just like that, Lulu became her assistant. Sitting in the taxi on her way back home, Lulu couldn't stop smiling. This was it. She was one step closer to the life she had always wanted. It felt surreal, like a dream unfolding right before her eyes. Zara had told her to meet her at her penthouse the next day. "Dress well and don't be late," was all she had said before leaving the restaurant. That night, Lulu spent hours picking out the perfect outfit. She had no designer clothes, no expensive heels, no luxury wigs, but this was her chance and she had to make it work. She borrowed another dress, straightened her old wig, and made sure her lip gloss was shining. Tomorrow she was stepping into a new world and she wasn't going to look back. Lulu's life changed overnight. Gone were the days of scrubbing floors and dreaming in her cramped one-room home. Now she was living the life she had always envied on Instagram. Designer bags, expensive dresses, luxurious restaurants, all of it was at her fingertips, all paid for by Chief Dominique. Every morning she woke up to new bank notifications, each deposit reassuring her that she had made the right decision. However, as much as she enjoyed this newfound luxury, there was an unsettling feeling creeping into her mind, the kind of feeling that whispered to her late at night, asking if she had really earned any of it. But she quickly silenced those thoughts. After all, wasn't life about survival, and hadn't she survived enough struggle already? This was just the reward she deserved. Zara had been right. Image was everything. Lulu perfected the art of looking expensive. She learned the right angles for photos, the best captions to make people envy her, and the kind of clothes that screamed wealth. She could now walk into the most high-end stores without the staff giving her a second glance. The world saw her as a rising influencer, another girl living the dream. But despite the glamorous facade, the reality behind the scenes was different. Zara had warned her that men like Chief Dominique got bored easily. They always want the next new thing, she had said, sipping on a glass of wine as they lounged in her penthouse. That's why you need a backup plan. A smart girl always has options. Lulu didn't want to think about what that meant. She was still adjusting to this life, still figuring things out, but she couldn't deny that she was addicted to the power, the attention, and most of all, the money. One evening, Zara invited her to another exclusive rooftop party. This time it was even more extravagant. The city skyline glittered in the background and the air smelled of champagne and designer perfumes. Beautiful women laughed effortlessly and powerful men in tailored suits observed them like they were selecting fine wine. As they settled into their VIP section, Zara pointed towards a group of men across the room. "Those are the real players, babe," she whispered. "Forget these small-time guys. If you want real wealth, you have to attract the right kind of men." Lulu swallowed hard. She wasn't sure how far she was willing to go, but as she sipped her drink and watched how easily Zara navigated these spaces, she realized something. This world had its own rules, and if she wanted to stay, she would have to play by them. A few minutes later, a man approached them. He was older, maybe in his mid-40s, but he carried himself with the confidence of someone who owned the world. He was introduced as Mr. Adewale, a billionaire businessman with ties to powerful political figures. His eyes lingered on Lulu longer than she was comfortable with. "You're new," he said, his voice smooth and commanding. Lulu forced a smile. "Yes, I'm just getting started." "I can tell," he chuckled, "but don't worry, you'll learn fast." Zara nudged her under the table. Lulu understood the message. This was an opportunity, the kind of opportunity that could take her to another level, but was she ready for it? That night, as she lay in her expensive apartment, another gift from Chief Dominique, Lulu couldn't sleep. She was at a crossroads. She had already come so far, but Zara's words echoed in her head. "A single man can only fund you for so long." The next morning she met Zara for brunch. The influencer was scrolling through her phone, barely looking up as she spoke. "So what's the verdict? Are you ready to expand your network?" Lulu hesitated. "I don't know. Chief Dominique has been good to me." Zara laughed. "Babe, wake up. These men are not loyal. The moment a younger, prettier girl comes along, they'll forget about you. You need to secure your future." Lulu sighed. Maybe she was right. Maybe loyalty didn't exist in this world. Maybe power belonged to those who took it. And so, with her heart pounding in her chest, she sent a message to Mr. Adewale. "Hi, it was nice meeting you last night. I'd love to talk more." The reply came instantly. "I was hoping you'd say that. Let's meet for dinner tonight." Lulu exhaled deeply. There was no turning back now. Lulu had stepped into a world she once only admired through her phone screen. She was no longer the girl from the struggling township of Sioux, but a rising figure in Johannesburg's elite social circles. However, as she settled deeper into this new reality, she started realizing that luxury came at a cost, one she wasn't sure she was willing to pay. Every morning Lulu woke up in a world that felt unreal. She had moved out of her cramped one-room apartment into a modern, fully furnished space that Chief Damon had provided for her. The furniture was sleek, the closet was filled with designer clothes, and she had a vanity table stacked with luxury skincare and perfumes. But beneath all this glamour, Lulu felt a growing sense of unease. Zara had introduced her to more influential people, both men and women, who lived in this extravagant but deceptive world. Every week there were exclusive parties, luxury getaways, and expensive dinners where the rich and powerful mingled with beautiful young women. The conversations were filled with gossip about who was dating which businessman, who had the latest car, and who was the next girl on social media. But behind the luxury there were secrets. Lulu started noticing things she once ignored. She saw how many of the young women she admired had lost themselves in this world. Some had turned to substances to cope with the emptiness that came with their lifestyles. Others had disappeared from the scene entirely, their places quickly filled by new ambitious girls eager to claim the throne of social media fame. As Lulu's social media following grew, so did the expectations placed on her. Zara constantly reminded her that in order to stay relevant she had to maintain the illusion of perfection. This meant investing in her body, something Lulu had been hesitant about. "You can't just look good, you have to look unreal," Zara told her one evening as they sat in a high-rise bar overlooking the city. "Men want fantasy, not reality. You need a smaller waist, fuller hips, and the kind of face that makes a man spend money without thinking twice." Lulu had always been confident in her natural beauty, but as she scrolled through Instagram, she noticed the trend. The top influencers all had the same exaggerated curves, sharp jawlines, and flawless skin. She had to admit the competition was real, and if she wanted to stay ahead she needed to evolve. A few days later, Zara took her to an underground cosmetic clinic. Unlike legitimate hospitals, these places operated in secrecy, offering procedures at a fraction of the cost. The clinic was hidden inside a small, dimly lit building with a waiting area full of young women, all waiting to be enhanced. Lulu felt her stomach twist as she listened to their conversations. One girl, Eva, casually mentioned she had done her body 3 times already. "This is an investment, babe," Eva said, adjusting her hair. "The more perfect you look, the higher your value." Lulu hesitated. Was she really ready to go through with this? The thought of surgery terrified her, but the thought of being left behind scared her even more. In the end, she convinced herself that this was just another step in her transformation. The procedure wasn't what she had expected. It was done quickly with minimal preparation. The so-called doctor barely spoke to her before injecting her body with a mysterious substance that promised instant results. Zara had assured her that this was normal. Everyone in the industry did it. The recovery was painful for days. Lulu could barely move her body, aching from the unnatural swelling, but as the pain subsided she began to see the changes. Her waist was snatched, her hips were fuller, and she had the curvaceous silhouette that turned heads. When she posted her first picture after the procedure, the response was overwhelming. Body goals. "Lulu, you're glowing. Teach us your ways, queen." The validation felt intoxicating. Every like, comment, and direct message reinforced the idea that she had made the right choice. For the first time she felt like she belonged in this world. With her newfound confidence, Lulu's ambitions grew. She was no longer just an assistant to Zara, she was becoming a brand of her own. More wealthy men started noticing her, sending her expensive gifts and inviting her to private events. Chief Damon still supported her, but Lulu knew that if she wanted to secure her future she needed more options. Zara encouraged her to build a roster, a network of benefactors who would compete for her attention. "Men love the chase," Zara explained. "Never rely on just one sponsor. If one falls, you always have another to catch you." Lulu had already seen how quickly women in this game could be replaced. One moment a girl was the favorite of a rich businessman, and the next she was struggling to maintain her lifestyle. After he lost interest, she refused to be one of those girls. One evening at an exclusive event in a mansion outside Johannesburg, Lulu was introduced to Mr. Nkube, a powerful businessman with connections across Africa. He was older, in his late 40s, but he carried himself with the confidence of a man who owned everything in his sight. "You have a captivating presence," Mr. Nkube said, kissing Lulu's hand. "A woman like you deserves the world." His words were smooth, rehearsed, but effective. He made her feel special in a way that even Chief Damon hadn't. Unlike the other men she had met, Mr. Nkube wasn't just interested in her looks, he was interested in her future. "I don't just give women money," he said later that night as they spoke privately, "I invest in them." Lulu's heart raced. This was what she had been waiting for, a man who didn't just see her as a temporary luxury but as a long-term project. He offered to set her up with her own business, a way for her to be independent. It was an opportunity she couldn't refuse. But Zara wasn't pleased. "Be careful with that one," she warned. "Men like him don't just give gifts, they demand loyalty." Lulu brushed off the warning. She was tired of relying on Zara's connections. She wanted something of her own. If Mr. Nkube could help her escape the cycle of dependency, she was willing to take the risk. However, she soon realized that Mr. Nkube's investment came with strings attached. He didn't just want her as a companion, he wanted control over her entire life. He dictated where she went, who she spoke to, and even what she posted on social media. The independence she had dreamed of was quickly turning into another form of captivity. One night, as she stared at the city skyline from her apartment, Lulu felt a wave of exhaustion wash over her. She had everything she had ever wanted: money, luxury, status, but she felt emptier than ever. Was this truly the life she wanted? Was she willing to keep sacrificing parts of herself to maintain an illusion? For the first time, Lulu began to wonder if she had made a mistake. Lulu's life had transformed beyond recognition. Gone were the days of struggling to find the right outfit or borrowing dresses from Toby. Now she had an entire wardrobe filled with luxury brands, shelves stacked with designer heels, and a vanity overflowing with high-end makeup. But beneath the shimmering facade of glitz and glamour, cracks were beginning to form. She had everything she had ever wanted: money, attention, power, but at what cost? Lulu had mastered the game, or so she thought. Her roster of clients had grown beyond just Chief Damon. Now she was entertaining multiple powerful men, each competing to outdo the last. Private jets, five-star vacations, and endless cash were at her disposal. Yet deep down she felt something gnawing at her, an unease she couldn't shake. But every time she questioned it, she silenced the doubt with another shopping spree or a lavish dinner at an exclusive restaurant. Zara, ever the mentor, saw the shift in Lulu. "You're getting comfortable, babe," she said one evening as they sat in her penthouse sipping champagne. "That's dangerous. In this world, you either keep evolving or you become irrelevant." Lulu scoffed, swirling the golden liquid in her glass. "I have men throwing money at me, I'm fine." Zara smirked knowingly. "For now, but trust me, men always want something new, and soon there will be a fresher girl, someone younger, hungrier. If you don't stay ahead, you'll be replaced." The words hit Lulu harder than she admitted. She had worked too hard to be discarded. Like yesterday's news, she had to do something big. One night, Zara introduced Lulu to a different kind of party. This wasn't just another rooftop gathering with rich men and influencers. This was an invitation-only event reserved for the true elite, the politicians, the foreign investors, the untouchables. If Lulu could make an impression here, she wouldn't just be another kept woman, she would be among the untouchables too. The party was held in a secluded mansion on the outskirts of Johannesburg. The moment Lulu stepped inside, she knew this was a different world. The opulence was suffocating, chandeliers dripping with crystals, waiters serving drinks in gold-plated glasses, and whispers of million-dollar deals happening in dimly lit corners. Zara guided her through the crowd. "This is where the real power players are," she murmured. "Choose wisely." Lulu spotted a man who stood out, not because of his wealth, everyone here was rich, but because of the way others gravitated toward him. He was in his late 40s, sharp suit, exuding authority. Zara noticed her interest and whispered, "That's Mr. Gaba. He owns properties across Africa. No one touches him. If you get in his good books, you're set for life." Lulu smiled, straightened her posture, and approached him. "Good evening, sir." He turned his piercing gaze, landing on her. "And who might you be?" "Lulu, a friend of Zara's." He studied her for a moment, then smirked. "Ah, a new face, interesting, let's talk." That night, Lulu learned a different kind of game. Mr. Gaba didn't just throw money at girls, he made investments in them. He promised Lulu something no other man had: real power. "You're beautiful, but beauty fades. If you want to last in this world, you need more than looks, you need influence. Let me teach you." Lulu had never been more intrigued. Under Mr. Gaba's wing, Lulu's life changed once again. He didn't just buy her gifts, he taught her how to invest, how to move in elite circles, how to control the narrative. He introduced her to people who made decisions that affected the entire country. Lulu was no longer just another girl on Instagram, she was becoming a force. But with power came new dangers. Unlike her previous sponsors, Mr. Gaba was not a man to be crossed. One evening as they dined at a high-end restaurant, Lulu made the mistake of mentioning another man's name. Mr. Gaba's expression darkened instantly. "Are you entertaining others while sitting at my table?" His voice was calm, but the threat was clear. Lulu hesitated. "No, of course not, I was just..." He cut her off with a cold smile. "Good, because once you're mine, Lulu, you don't get to play games anymore." The chill in his tone sent shivers down her spine. She realized then that she wasn't just a girl enjoying luxury anymore, she was entangled in something much deeper, something far more dangerous. One afternoon while shopping, Lulu ran into an old face. Toby, her best friend, looked different, thinner, and exhausted. "Lulu, we need to talk." Lulu laughed, brushing her off. "I'm busy, Toby. Let me guess, another lecture." Toby grabbed her hand, her grip firm. No, this is serious. I heard things about Mr. Gaba, bad things. He's dangerous. Lulu, women who cross him disappear. Lulu's stomach twisted. She wanted to ignore Toby, to dismiss her as jealous, but something about the desperation in her eyes made her pause. You think I don't know what I'm doing? Lulu scoffed. I'm not a child, Toby. I finally have everything I wanted. Toby's eyes filled with sadness. At what cost? Lulu shook her head and walked away, but later that night, as she lay in her luxury apartment surrounded by everything she had ever dreamed of, she couldn't shake the feeling that Toby might be right. Days turned into weeks and Lulu continued to climb higher, but the more power she gained, the more isolated she became. Zara had warned her before, you either keep evolving or you become irrelevant. Lulu now understood that meant sacrificing more than she ever imagined. One evening, as she stood on the balcony of her penthouse staring at the glittering city below, she whispered to herself, am I really happy? But before she could answer that question, her phone buzzed. It was Mr. Gaba. His message was brief, come to my house now. Lulu's heart pounded as she grabbed her bag and left. She knew deep down that this was another turning point, another step into a world she wasn't sure she could escape. Little did she know the real test was yet to come. Lulu had come a long way from the cramped one-room apartment in Sioux. She was no longer just a girl who scrolled through Instagram, wishing for a better life. She was now living it. But as she stepped deeper into the influencer world, she realized that perfection came with a price. The money, the designer clothes, the access to exclusive parties, it was everything she had ever wanted. Yet, the deeper she went, the more she understood that this world was built on illusion. The cars were borrowed, the luxury apartments were often paid for by men like Chief Damon, and the friendships were transactional. Lulu was starting to see cracks in the perfect image she had once idolized. Zara had been a guiding force in her transformation, but she was also the one pushing her further down this path. You need to stay relevant, Zara would say. The competition is tough, and there's always a new girl ready to take your spot. Lulu understood that staying at the top meant constantly reinventing herself. Her Instagram following had skyrocketed, and brands were beginning to notice her. She was receiving PR packages, sponsorship deals, and even invitations to luxury brand events. But Zara wasn't satisfied. Babe, you're still playing small, Zara told her one evening as they sipped champagne on the rooftop of a 5-star hotel. If you really want to be untouchable in this industry, you need to take the next step. Lulu knew what she meant, cosmetic surgery. It wasn't enough to be beautiful, she had to be perfect. She had to have the tiny waist, the curvy hips, the lifted chest, and the sculpted jawline that made men, and brands, obsess over her. I don't know, Zara, Lulu hesitated. I mean, I'm already getting attention. Do I really need all that? Zara rolled her eyes. Lulu, look at the top influencers, every single one of them has had work done. You don't get to sit with the elite looking like a regular girl. Trust me, a few tweaks and you'll be unstoppable. Lulu knew Zara was right. The pressure to stay relevant was suffocating. She had seen other girls rise to fame, only to disappear when a younger, more enhanced girl took their place. She didn't want to be one of them. A week later, Zara took her to a private clinic hidden in a wealthy suburb. Unlike the underground clinic they had visited before, this one looked more professional, but the secrecy around it was the same. The doctor was well known among the influencer circles, a man who catered to the elite but didn't operate under legal medical licenses. Lulu was nervous as she lay on the examination table. The doctor walked in, smiling confidently. Don't worry, darling. You're in good hands. You'll wake up looking like a goddess. She was given anesthesia, and the last thing she saw was Zara giving her a reassuring nod before everything faded to black. When Lulu woke up, pain shot through her body like fire. She tried to move, but her entire torso felt like it had been crushed. The doctor had given her the influencer package, liposuction, a Brazilian butt lift, breast augmentation, and a jawline contour. Everything she needed to look like an Instagram dream. Zara was by her side, holding her phone up. Smile, babe. Your followers need to know you're leveling up. Lulu forced a weak smile, and Zara snapped the picture, already typing out a caption. Boss babe glow up. Recovery mode, but it's all worth it. The post went viral within hours. Thousands of likes, comments, and DMs flooded in. People praised her for her transformation, calling her an inspiration. Lulu felt a rush of validation despite the pain. This was the price of perfection, and she had willingly paid it. Recovery was brutal. She couldn't sit properly for weeks, and her entire body ached with every movement. But as time passed, the results became evident. Her waist was impossibly small, her hips curvier, her face more defined. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. With her new body, everything changed. More brands wanted to work with her. Richer men began sliding into her DMs, offering vacations, luxury gifts, and more money than she had ever dreamed of. She was invited to exclusive events, private yacht parties, and international trips. One evening, she was at a high-profile event when she caught the attention of Mr. Tembo, a billionaire entrepreneur. He was older, powerful, and exactly the kind of man Zara had told her to target. "You're stunning," he said, handing her a glass of champagne. "I could make your life very comfortable, Lulu." Lulu knew what he meant. These men didn't just offer luxury for free, they expected something in return. But as she looked around at the glamorous women, all of them playing the same game, she realized she had already crossed the line long ago. That night, she made a decision: she would do whatever it took to secure her place at the top. She had come too far to go back. As she lay in bed that night, scrolling through her comments, she saw a message from Toby. "Lulu, are you okay? This isn't you. Please talk to me." Lulu stared at the message for a long time before locking her phone. Toby didn't understand. No one from Sue did. She wasn't that poor girl anymore. She was Lulu X, the rising star of Johannesburg's influencer elite. But deep down, a part of her wondered, had she really gained everything she wanted, or had she lost herself along the way? The world saw a goddess, but inside, Lulu was beginning to feel like a prisoner in a golden cage. And she knew the deeper she went, the harder it would be to escape. Lulu had everything she ever dreamed of: money, luxury, influence. Yet, beneath the shimmering surface of her new life, the weight of her choices bore down on her. She had climbed to the top of the social hierarchy in Johannesburg's influencer scene, but the higher she went, the more unstable the ground beneath her feet became. The whispers had started weeks ago, talks of certain girls disappearing, others suddenly vanishing from social media with no explanation. At first, Lulu ignored them, convinced that those girls simply couldn't keep up with the game. But when Zara, the one who had introduced her to this world, started acting strangely, Lulu knew something was terribly wrong. One evening, as they lounged in Zara's penthouse, sipping expensive champagne, Zara dropped a comment that sent a chill down Lulu's spine. "You should start planning your exit," Zara said, twirling her glass absent-mindedly. Lulu blinked, taken aback. "Exit? What do you mean?" Zara let out a small, humorless laugh. "You don't think this life lasts forever, do you? We're only valuable for as long as we're fresh. The moment we start showing wear, they find younger, newer girls. And some of them, well, they don't just get discarded. They disappear." Lulu swallowed hard. She had suspected there was more to the game than what she was told, but this was the first time someone admitted it outright. "What are you saying, Zara?" Zara turned to her, her usual confidence gone, replaced by something eerily close to fear. "I'm saying that you should leave while you still can." Lulu scoffed, though her heart was pounding. "Leave and do what? Go back to Sue? Go back to struggling?" Zara leaned in, her voice deadly serious. "Struggling is better than not existing at all." Lulu couldn't get Zara's words out of her head. But as much as she wanted to deny it, things were already unraveling. Chief Damon had grown distant, his texts becoming infrequent, his gifts slowing down. One evening, Lulu was invited to an exclusive yacht party hosted by one of the wealthiest men in Johannesburg. These events were common, but something felt different. As she stepped aboard the lavish yacht, dressed in a designer gown and dripping in diamonds, she noticed that most of the girls there were new faces. Young, wide-eyed, and naive, just like she had been. She found Zara sitting at the bar, downing drinks faster than usual. "What's wrong?" Lulu asked. Zara gave her a sideways glance. "You're on the list tonight." Lulu frowned. "What list?" Zara sighed, looking exhausted. "The list of girls they're passing around tonight." A sinking feeling formed in Lulu's stomach. "No. I'm not doing that." Zara laughed bitterly. "You think you have a choice?" Lulu's heart pounded. This wasn't the first time she had been put in uncomfortable situations, but something about this felt final, irreversible. As the night went on, she noticed how some of the girls were being taken below deck, and when they returned, they looked different. Scared. Shaken. She knew she had to leave. Lulu slipped away, making her way toward the exit. But as she stepped onto the dock, she felt a firm grip on her arm. She turned to find one of the men who had been watching her all night. "Where do you think you're going?" he asked, his voice smooth but threatening. Lulu forced a smile. "I don't feel well. I just need some air." The man didn't let go. "Stay a while. The night's just getting started." Panic set in. She yanked her arm free and ran. She didn't care if she looked desperate, didn't care if it ruined her reputation. She just ran. She hailed a taxi and, without thinking, directed it toward Sue. Lulu stepped out of the taxi, back in the neighborhood she had once sworn she'd never return to. It looked exactly the same, nothing had changed, except for her. Her mother was still at work when she arrived at their small apartment. She sat on the bed, staring at her reflection in the cracked mirror. She barely recognized herself. The expensive wig, the designer clothes, it all looked like a costume now. When her mother returned home that night, she froze at the sight of her daughter. "Lulu?" she asked, confused. Lulu's lip trembled, and for the first time in months, she let herself cry. Her mother didn't ask any questions. She simply pulled her daughter into her arms, holding her as she sobbed. Lulu deleted her Instagram account the next morning. It was as if she had erased her entire existence in one click. But she felt free. She spent weeks adjusting to her new life, learning to appreciate the simplicity of it. It wasn't easy, there were days she missed the glamour, the attention, the money. But she reminded herself of the cost. One day, she received a text from Zara. It was a single message: "They're looking for you. Be careful." Lulu turned off her phone and looked out the window. For the first time in a long time, she felt safe. She had escaped the game. But she knew many others never would.